Right, thanks, Dr. Holler, for that. And again, like I said, at 12 o'clock, 10 o'clock Mesa, Brian Kruzniak's doing a session on Google Glass, which kind of shows some of the augmented reality things. And then at 2:30, which would be 12:30 Mesa, will be a VR presentation that I'm going to do. So we'll have a lot of the kind of the cool tools that we were talking about. Next up in our Tech Share Day are going to be some of the instructional designers from CGHS talking about how they go past just the multiple choice quiz to get assessment and to see how students are really doing. So we're going to have Andy Kotwitz and Beth Thompson, and I'm going to turn over the mic to them and let them go ahead and start your presentation.
Perfect. All right, thanks, Dean. My name is Andy Kotwitz, and I'm one of the instructional designers at CGHS. And as Dean said today, Beth and I are going to talk about going beyond the multiple choice quiz and how to use some authentic assessments to further our students' learning. And also, we're going to fill you in a little bit on some of the tools and resources that are available within Blackboard to help us do that. So I'm going to talk about how we create authentic assessments, and this is something that can be applied to either a face-to-face classroom or online or blended. It doesn't really matter. This is just kind of an educational philosophy about authentic assessments. And notice that create is in all caps, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, so before I can talk about how to create authentic assessments, it's probably important that we know what authentic assessments are. So what are authentic assessments? Well, they are creative assessments. And creative, I don't necessarily mean that they're original and you've never seen anything like that before, but creative in the sense that students create something. So whether it's something they can hold in their hands or a digital file of some kind, they are creating a product that can be graded and evaluated. Authentic assessments also should be relevant. And I know later on Beth is going to talk about some of the tools in Blackboard. Just because a tool is new and flashy doesn't mean that we necessarily need to use it. So we need to make sure that the tool is relevant to our teaching. And a lot of times we say, let the teaching drive the tool. So we should already have in mind what we know our students want to do and what we want them to be able to do by the time they're finished with our class. So we would find a tool that would supplement our teaching and not manipulate our curriculum in order to fit the tools. Authentic assessments also need to be engaging and memorable. We want students to be able to get involved and take ownership of the things that they're doing in their courses and not just doing the requirements just to earn a grade. Authentic assessments need to be applicable. Are they doing activities and creating things that they're going to be able to apply to either future courses or their future career? We hope so. Authentic assessments also should be targeted. And that means we have goals and objectives that our assessments need to be meeting. And that could be on a small level, like your course competencies. And on a slightly broader level, you would have program competencies and goals that you're trying to achieve. And then at the university here, we have our CPAs, our core professional attributes. So we know our authentic assessments, we want our students to become good collaborators, good communicators, and culturally competent, socially responsible critical thinkers. I think I got all 5 in there. And authentic assessments are essential for a good educational program, and it's also essential because I needed an E to finish out my acronym. Notice the create along the side there. That's what we talked about earlier. All right, what authentic assessment is not: regurgitated information, memorized facts, multiple choice questions and responses, and fill in the blanks. And here is a picture of Bloom's taxonomy. This has been around for many, many years in education, and it was revised in 2001, it looks like. And basically, you'll notice the bottom 2 layers of the pyramid are understanding and remembering. So those are the things that are like, it used to be called knowledge and comprehension. And those things are very important, because they are the base layer of the pyramid. But authentic assessments really are the higher level things on our pyramid. And that's really what we're pushing our students to be able to do. We want them to be creating. We want them to be evaluating and analyzing and applying. So how can we use the tools in Blackboard to develop more authentic assessments and improve students' learning? And that is what Beth is going to talk about.
Can you hear me okay? All right. All right, so as we were preparing this, we were thinking about all the different tools that Blackboard has and what are some reasons to use them and some really good examples of how we have seen people really creatively use them within their courses. So we'll start with journals. Journals are, in a way, kind of like a notebook. They're set up like a notebook. People can write things in it. You can make them public or you can make them private. If it's private, it's between you and the instructor, or the student and the instructor. One of the best uses I've seen of this actually was not here. It was at a place I worked previously, English 101. They were learning how to write a paper. And so what the instructor did was every module, they had the students post 2 or 3 articles in an annotated bibliography format that they could be using to write their final paper. And students were able to organize everything within that little notebook and use it to write their final paper. In fact, it was so popular, I had students calling me, asking me to put it in every one of their courses because they wanted a way to have that organization for every paper they write and every project they do. So it was quite successful. Assignments and written papers. This is one that's obviously very, very well used in the online world and even in the residential world. But assignments can be more than just a paper. They could be a project, they could be an Excel file, they could be an SPSS file, they could be any document format that is created. The newest version of Blackboard has integrated a whole bunch of new tools into the assignments feature. They do groups, and we'll talk about groups a little bit later. You can do plagiarism check via Safe Assign. It's now integrated into the assignment feature. It's not a separate thing. You can also have it be draft Safe Assign checked, where it will check it against the database but not add it to the database. You can do what is called anonymous grading. This is a great feature if you are wanting to have a little bit more equality in grading. What it does is when the instructor goes to grade the paper, they don't see the name of the student. They're assigned a random number, and all you do is see the paper. Granted, it requires that the student not identify themselves within the paper, but it allows the instructors to grade the paper based on its value, not the bias of, well, I don't like that student, or that student's just fabulous, I'm going to give him an A. So that's a brand new feature that one of the things we're looking at adding that into is the dissertation comprehensive exams, where the students are submitting papers to multiple people, and we don't want their former instructors to have a bias for or against them. Same thing kind of goes with the delegated grading, especially if you have large classes of students with multiple instructors. Delegated grading allows you to assign certain faculty to grade certain students. So that if you have, say, a class of 50 people and you have 4 instructors, you can say, okay, this instructor is going to grade this group of people, this one, this group of people. Yeah.
Can you set that up so that 2 faculty members grade the same paper?
And that's what I was just going to say, yes. The question was, can you have multiple faculty grade the same paper? Yes. What's really neat about that too is you get to see all the grades and you can choose if you want to take the maximum, the average, or whatever. It works really well with rubrics. You can really play around with that. But yes, you can assign multiple people to the same person. So that's again, brand new feature. We haven't had a chance to play around with that quite often because, I'm sorry, we're at CGHS and our classes are kind of small. So it's not been an issue up to this point, but it's a good thing. Some examples that we have done that have gone beyond the paper is what we call you choose assignments. And what we have done in certain classes is a faculty member will say that the student needs to create something, a project or some type of product, but not requiring each student to do the same thing. So in a research course that we have, it's a mixed methods research course, and the instructor wanted them to do a small qualitative type project. So he gave them a choice. You could do an observation, you could do an interview, or you can do a document review. And each student could choose which one they wanted to do. We have some where it's a project where they get to do a different product. Some get to choose a video, some do a presentation, some do a paper, some do whatever the choices happen to be. And I've actually been looking through the data for the past year on the You Choose assignments, and all of the courses that we've had a You Choose assignment, the students have pretty much equally picked all of the choices. Now, it hasn't been one choice has been more popular than another. It's all been fairly equal. So that tells me that the assignments are well written, that they do fit the niche of what our students need. Wikis. Usually when I say the word wiki, I see looks of horror and dread on faculty's faces. Please don't be afraid of wikis. Wikis are not bad. Wikis are used to create a document with participation from multiple people. What I laugh at is I'll say wiki and people will freak out, but then I ask, well, how many of you ever use Google Docs? Guess what? I'm sorry to have to break the news. Google Doc is a wiki. It's just named different. So a wiki is just anything that a group is collaborating on together to create a final product. The wiki tool in Blackboard is really nice because it does, on the end grading side, allow the instructor to deconstruct and really see who has participated within the wiki, who has contributed. They can see what was contributed in terms of content and percentage. So it's a good grading tool. One of the newest wikis we're adding into a course is in the biostatistics course. Now, as we all know, students just love statistics and find it to be the easiest course, or not. So what we've done is the biostatistics professor has set up a wiki so that every module in the course, every week, a student posts a word, a terminology from that module, from the course. They post then a definition and then an explanation of that word to someone who knows absolutely nothing about statistics. And they all post this every week in the wiki. By the time then the course is done, what you have is a complete glossary of statistics terms with the official definition and a layman's definition that they can then take into their next courses, which include writing a research proposal and doing statistics. So it's a very good example of how the whole class can contribute to group learning. Blogs. Again, blogs have kind of gotten a bad rap in the media, but we use them quite often. A blog is a tool that allows you to post something for others to view. You're not necessarily wanting a discussion on it. You're not necessarily wanting a collaboration on it. It's just your way of posting it for others to view. We actually just set up the Doctorate of Health Sciences program in their final series of courses creates their final project. And part of that is to do a poster presentation. And so what we've done is we've created a Blackboard course specifically for them, where every student goes into the blog and posts their poster presentation for everyone else to see. It's for their instructor, their classmates, for ATSU staff, anybody who wants to see them. Then whoever is looking at them can post a comment. It's not required. But that way, over time, you can see all of the poster presentations done by group over time. So it's a good repository for them to be sharing these poster presentations and knowledge across time. Discussions. In the online world, discussions are kind of the gold standard. Everybody has discussions, everybody. Yet discussions are habitually one of the hardest things to write. People who come from a residential world will write a discussion question, what is a chi-square? Because that's what they would ask in a classroom. But that's not a discussion. A discussion has to be a give and take, back and forth. So you have to kind of disassociate it for the residential world. It has to allow students to discuss a topic with enough breadth that everyone can bring something new to the table, but yet not so broad that it's unwieldy. And so a good example I pulled was in one of our health administration courses. There's a discussion on ethics versus business. Give an example of where there's a decision that has to be made where the ethical principles contradict the business principles. And then, tell us about this example. Which would you do? Which would you not do? And then the other students can weigh in. A good example that was posted last term was the Brittany Maynard case, where students were really debating about the ethical choice of, do you really have a right to die versus, well, okay, this is actually saving money because they're not going through the treatment, the family doesn't have to pay the medical expenses. So it's this give and take back and forth. I always say it this way, in a discussion, there really cannot be a right answer because there has to be some controversy. There has to be something that people can really discuss and sink their teeth into. And a lot of it depends on the faculty member, I'll tell you that right now. I've seen the discussion, what is a chi-square? Yes, that was actually in one of our courses. One instructor could take that and make it just fabulous by adding new questions and really drawing out extra information. So discussions, it's not only writing the question, but it's how you participate in it. Yes?
So on the discussion, you grade on participation or you grade on quality of participation with like a rubric or something?
The question was, since I know everyone can hear, is how do you grade a discussion? Is it based on participation, or is it on quality of postings? And it's both. We encourage our faculty to use rubrics that incorporate everything. We encourage them to use the participation angle. CGHS actually has a participation requirement that is included. There's also a content, most of the faculty have specific content requirements. There's APA requirements. The DHSC program has a program-wide discussion rubric, things that they expect out of all the discussions. Some faculty have their own, but we definitely encourage the use of rubrics to grade discussions so that students really know what to expect. And we didn't add rubrics in here, so I may talk about those at the end, but group work. The group feature is quite interesting because it allows you to assign students to groups to work on a project or paper or what have you. But within the groups have access to a specific group discussion, blog, wiki, and journal. So those things, some of them can be graded, some of them cannot. So it allows you to, within the group, they have those options of which tool they want to use. And one of our courses has a course-long wiki where in a group, the students in the course create an entire community health improvement plan. In one module, they do a needs assessment. The second one, they do a community analysis. The third, they do a financial analysis, whatever it may be. But as a group, they're working on it together. And that way, as a group, they get different perspectives from different fields that they come from. So by using the group tool, you get all of these experiences working together to really make a better product at the end. Groups do have multiple ways of enrolling. You can do self-enroll where students pick. You can do manual enroll where the faculty member chooses. Or you can do a random where you just randomly assign people. So, there's a lot of different ways to set that up. And I'm going to touch on rubrics here for a second. We didn't add it in here, but Rubrics are something we are really encouraging our faculty to use. It's a good education practice anyway. Blackboard does have really good rubric tools where you can assign, percent ranges or point ranges and all the different criteria. What research has shown is when you have a rubric, it allows for better grading across time and better inter-rater reliability. So we do encourage faculty to use rubrics, and we do, if a faculty does want to use them, we create them in Blackboard so they can use it to grade. Students really like it. The one comment I heard from a student is, yes, the rubrics are great as long as they actually match what the assignment is. So that's one thing we double check always, but having a rubric is a really good tool, especially if you have multiple people grading the same assignment. So those are some of the tools that we use within the online world. One thing I would also like to point out is I actually did a presentation at the Iowa Distance Learning Association symposium in March, I think it was, about using even a lot of these tools in business type functions. The institution where I worked before here, they use all of these tools in a HLC course, where they used all of these features to create the HLC documentation for their review. The Faculty Senate had their own course where they used the discussions and the files and the wikis to store all of the Faculty Senate information, to set up meetings, to share announcements. I'm actually using not Blackboard, but a similar thing for the American Osteopathic Board of Dermatology. They're doing all of their certification testing via that system. They're doing all of the candidate documentation in terms of, so even using these tools, we can use them outside of the academic realm. You can use them for other functions too. So we encourage you to think outside the box. If you have any questions about any of these tools, and there is one question right now, yes?
So in the group, if we have a discussion, does Google track how many posts they made into the discussion?
Yes, the question is, if it's a group discussion, does it still track the participation in the discussion? Absolutely. Absolutely. The only difference with a group discussion is only the people who are enrolled in the group can see that discussion. The instructor can see it, can see all of them. It's set up just like a regular discussion. It just limits the access to who gets it.
So if I want to see how that individual participated in the group, can I filter and see just their?
Yes, the question was, can I, if a faculty member wants to see who is participating in a discussion, can we filter it by one specific student? Absolutely. You can actually see all of the posts, the actual post, the date, all of that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions on any of these tools, there are 4 of us in the instructional design section at CGHS. There's Andy Kotwitz, which you've already met, me. Hi. Sue McDaniel and Elsie Rudd. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us. We actually have a group email called CGHS Designers at atsu.edu. Please feel free to email us. We're here on the Missouri campus. We're kind of hidden away across the street, but we do leave the hole every once in a while, so we'd be more than willing to help out. Just give us an email, give any of us a call. We're more than willing to help out, and hopefully this was informative to some of you. I'm glad. Thank you all for coming.